Welcome to this week's Sanctuary Sunday School session powered by the Sanctuary Academy. Go to the website www.thesanctuary.academy. We have new classes that are live now just for you. We have all kind of new season specials that are good through the end of September, but there are very limited quantities. So you want to go to the website. You also want to join the YouTube channel because I already have exclusive member-only videos just for you. So go to the website, www.thesanctuary.academy. Now, this week's subject is God provides water from a rock. And I love this series because the subjects are so simple. You know, last week we talked about God provided manna and quail. And this week he provided water from a rock. And so we see that in this lesson, in the book of Exodus, we're still talking about the journey from Egypt to the promised land, and Moses was leading the people. And I was looking at this subject and I thought about this entire passage, the text, how sometimes when God is moving for us and he's delivering us, it's a process, right? It's not just like that. We snap our fingers and everything is okay. There is a process. It is a journey. There is an exodus that we have to go through in order to experience that complete deliverance. And it's step by step. And sometimes I'm even guilty of this. If it's a long process, we kind of start worrying about the next step before we even stop and thank God for what he's already done and how far he's already brought us, and to understand that he didn't bring us this far to leave us. And so we're looking at them, and we see that he had already taken them through the 10 plagues, right? And he had delivered them out of Egypt. And last week we talked about how they were hungry. So God provided them manna and quail to eat. And instead of saying, God, you brought us through, you've kept us safe, you fed us, and so I'm trusting you, Lord, that you will give us something to drink. No, they went right back to complaining and murmuring about conditions in the wilderness. And they were giving Moses fits. And he told God, he said, what am I going to do with these people? We gave them water. Now they complaining about they thirsty and this and the people, and here's the thing, the lesson that I took away from here is not to say that the need was not real. They were thirsty. But even in a time of need, there is a way to approach God with thanksgiving as opposed to approaching him with complaining. And as I read this and I looked at this scripture, that jumped out at me this time. We are all going through things again, this pandemic, and I have literally seen people complain throughout the entire duration of this pandemic. Just complain and just mumble. But sometimes we need to thank God. If you've gone this far through this pandemic and you are still alive, that's something to be grateful for. If you're still in your home, if you still have food to eat, let's start with thanking God for what he already did. And then we won't have a mindset to complain about what he hasn't done yet. So we see here, the people, they were coming to Moses and they were complaining. And look at this. I love the fact that God told Moses to use what he already had. He said, go get that rod, that same rod that you hit the water when the water got back so they could walk across on dry ground on the Red Sea. Go get that same rod. And he said, in this time, you're going to take the rod and you're going to hit the rock. And when you hit this rock, the water is going to come out. And when you look at this, sometimes, instead of complaining about your situation, look at it as an opportunity for God to move in a mighty way for you. Because think about it. When we talked about the manna and the quail, and when we talk about this water, God did things in a way where nobody could have done this but God. This was purely the work of God. This was God providing for you. This was God loving you. Okay, when we talked about the manna, they didn't even recognize the manna. They didn't know what it was. This was something that was purely from God. And now we're talking about this rock, right? And typically, that's not where you get water from. You're going to get water from a river or a well. You don't hit a rock and get water. but you can when God is in the picture. And this just blessed my soul because, sometimes we're in situations where we just don't see how it's going to work. You just don't see a way out. And instead of becoming afraid and discouraged and depressed, think about it as, okay, God, I know you about to come through. I know you about to provide for me just like you provided for the children in the wilderness. Lord, I'm your child and I need you right now. See, if we start praying like that, and coming to God. I was raised where they told me that you can go boldly before the throne of grace. You don't have to be pitiful. You don't have to be downtrodden. You don't have to be depressed and moaning and groaning. No, you can go boldly before the throne of grace and ask God for whatever it is that you need. And so we see here that God was so faithful to his people. He brought them out, he fed them, and he also gave them water. He sustained them with exactly what they needed. And I'm looking at how he was with Moses. If you are a leader, for God to be with you and for God to use you to provide for his people. And if you're following a leader, you want to be the kind of person who makes the leader's job easy. You want to believe in God and trust the leader that God has given charge over you. And then you have absolutely nothing to worry about. We are looking at how God took care of his children through the wilderness. We are his children as well. And if we are going through a wilderness experience right now, the wilderness is not comfortable. The wilderness is hot. It's dangerous. It's all these things. You don't have all of the comforts that you would desire. And that's how it is for some of us, again, with this pandemic. Sometimes, we had to scale back. I had to scale back on budgeting and do a couple of things. And my studio was closed and I had to figure out ways to get it done, to keep doing these videos. But you know what? I got it done and I'm still here and I'm grateful. You're getting through this. If you are watching this video, you are still here. You can see, you can hear, and you have a device to watch it on. Thank God for where you are and what you have, and trust God to provide everything that you will ever need.